Minister, Ambassador, ladies and gentlemen, it's a very great pleasure to be here. I must say I have the impression today that London is the kind of crossroads of the world. As I was saying to the Ambassador this morning, I was at the Croatian investment seminar. Croatia is, of course, the European Union's newest member. Latvia is a long-standing, reasonably long-standing member of the European Union. And so I have a sense that the entire European Union is converging on London today. I also had the sense as I tried to get here just now that we're digging up London yet again, because it seems to me that all roads leading to Finsbury Circus are closed. Nevertheless, we're here and it's great to be here. And it's an important occasion because Latvia is an important opportunity for British investment and for British trade. I was in Latvia last year and one of the things I was struck by is how in many ways like-minded the British and the Latvians are about the way they think about what is important in growing European connectivity. There is, of course, a long-standing history that we share. We both have a strong commitment to the EU growth agenda. We both care a lot about free trade, financial stability, the single market, the digital single market. These things matter to us all in a European Union, which is, after all, we need to remind ourselves, 500 million people, the largest single trading bloc in the world, and one with immense potential as long as we keep going with full-blooded implementation of the single market. And we, the British government, look forward to working ever more closely with the Latvian government as it takes up the EU presidency in 2015. It's quite a challenge, the EU presidency. I've seen it for myself. It makes all of the difference to the successful working of the Council of the European Union, how it is chaired, and it goes from country to country on a 6-monthly basis, and I am confident that Latvia will do an outstanding job of chairing the decision-making process that matters to us all in 2015. Our Prime Minister, David Cameron, was in Riga earlier this year. Our Secretary of State for Defence, Philip Hammond, was there in September. And as I say, I was there in June last year. And that steady flow of British ministers, for one thing, gives our ambassador plenty of work to do, but also underscores, I think, the importance of the opportunity. The relationship, I was looking at the history books a bit, goes back a long way. Riga was, of course, a Hanseatic port. There was only one Hanseatic port in this country, although there were more than one place where there was a Hanseatic contour, but there was only one formally designated Hanseatic port, King's Lynn, now several miles inland. But in the Middle Ages, sailing ships would carry cargo between London and Riga, and Hanseatic merchants would exchange English wool for Latvian wood. Indeed, the British used Baltic pine and hemp on their ships at Trafalgar. And in fact, the UK is still one of Latvia's principal markets for timber. Like Riga, London has grown and prospered by being opened to trade. And this is, I think, the fundamental message for the 21st century. Many of us regard the Hanseatic League as a precursor to the free trade areas of today. And it's the future of Europe's free trade area, the European Union as we call it, to which both of our nations belong, that is preoccupying many of us right now. Whenever economies hit hard times, as a number of economies, though not Latvia, have of late, Latvia is the strongest, the fastest growing economy in Europe at the moment, you always find people who want to put up the walls of protectionism, to turn away from the international markets, to retreat into isolationism, and this is always a bad thing. One of the surest messages of the textbooks is that free trade is a strong net beneficiary to all economies, and neither Latvia nor the UK are exceptions to that rule. And indeed, what you've seen in the last 2 or 3 years, as Latvia has rebounded very strongly from the crisis, is a rapid growth in UK investment in Latvia and in UK trade with Latvia. Investment from the UK into Latvia has been growing at 24% on average over the past 5 years, and there are about 800 British firms operating in the Latvian economy. Firms like Grant Instruments, which works with Latvia's Biosan to export biotech instruments to Russia. BSW Timber, the UK's largest sawmilling business, which has a state-of-the-art sawmill on the outskirts of Riga. And Tech Hub, which has established its first overseas base in Latvia. That's a very important signal of the connectivity for the modern economy in the 21st century between Latvia and Britain. Tech Hub links up London's Tech City, which is Europe's fastest growing digital hub, with Latvia, with the exciting things that I saw for myself when I was in Riga last year. And at the other end of the scale, if that's the right way of putting it, Costa Coffee, which is UK's largest homegrown coffee shop brand, expanding in Latvia and helping to revive weary tourists in Riga's old town. Latvia is clearly a market, therefore, which offers huge opportunities across a wide range of sectors, and it's part of my mission, if you will, to encourage more and more British businesses to think about opportunities around the world, of course, and in East Europe in general, and Latvia in particular, because there are very considerable opportunities in these young, fast-growing economies in that part of the European Union. As an open and easily accessible market within the EU, Latvia is a place where I believe that companies can thrive and prosper. We not only have a similar business culture, and it helps, of course, that English is very widespread as a business language, but also Latvia is a great springboard for markets further east. I've mentioned Russia already, and the other near European eastern markets, I think, are also great opportunities for Latvia, and we should think about a possible investment in Latvia not only for its own market and its sister Baltic states, of course, but also as a springboard for points eastwards. So when it comes to sharing knowledge and skills, I think there are great opportunities, all the way from ICT to education. There's a project being led now by the City of London which will allow us to share expertise on financial services with Latvian colleagues. And there are other areas where I think we should try and work together, in energy, in the environment, on renewables, cogeneration plants, LNG, wind, and so forth. In a sense, these are early days in a relationship which has an immense amount of potential. In infrastructure construction, the Rail Baltica line between Tallinn and Warsaw is going to be a huge project, and I believe there are great opportunities for British businesses to play their part in that massive infrastructure investment around that part of the Baltic. This is a fantastic opportunity, and I'm really pleased to be able to report that UKTI teams in the Baltics are working with the Ministers of Transport in Estonia, Latvia and Lithuania to promote, in particular, this opening to the UK rail industry. More generally, I believe that trade is a great stimulus to growth in both countries. We, the British, have a particular challenge of encouraging more and more British businesses to look overseas, and in particular to look at the faster growing markets, because that way lies growth. As we come out of the financial and economic crisis, know we have to rebalance our economy, know we have to move away from an economic growth model that was driven primarily by the British domestic consumer taking on more debt, know that we can't rely on government spending to drive demand, and know therefore that it's about investment, which is another subject important, but I'm not going to dwell on it much now, and importantly trade. The more that we can get more British businesses into the international markets, the more we strengthen the backbone of our own economy, as well as contributing to economic development in markets overseas. And the truth is that our traditional markets just across the Channel are going to remain relatively slow growing for some considerable time. And that's about half of our total market at the moment. So we need to encourage more British firms to look further afield. And sometimes I find myself saying, go look at the Middle East, go look at Africa, go look at Asia. And at other times I find myself saying, remember to look at Eastern Europe, because these are younger economies with a lot of growth, and Latvia is demonstrating that par excellence. These are opportunities, and they have the advantage over some of those other areas of the world I've just mentioned of being more familiar territory. They are part of the European Union. We do operate under a European Union framework which helps businesses in many respects to de-risk the decision of going into the market. So Latvia is a great opportunity, and like I mentioned, not only an opportunity in its own right, but as a gateway to some other very interesting and undoubtedly some more complex markets further to the east. but which also exhibit fast growth. So that's the basic message. Looking the other way, over time there will be more and more Latvian businesses looking for opportunities to, as it were, go global. And I want to make sure that as they think about going global, they look to the opportunities in this country to form partnerships. I think particularly in the tech sector, which I've referred to, there are obvious opportunities for partnerships between bright young entrepreneurs in Riga connecting up with bright young entrepreneurs in the tech sector here in this country. And we have many challenges, but we are one of the most open economies in the world, one of the most welcoming economies in the world, and London is the great crossroads of the entire world. There are more European headquarters based in the UK, European headquarters of non-European businesses, I mean, than in any other country in Europe, and that's a sign of that openness that I think that we offer, and we offer it to our Latvian friends as they think about going global, just as much as we offer it to anyone else. So there's a challenge. We need to rebalance our economy. We all need sustainable growth. We all need to create jobs. We know, by the way, that that's a story so much about smaller businesses rather than about bigger ones. Most of the jobs in all of our economies are created by small companies. We also know that the small companies that venture into international markets get more efficient as compared with those that don't, and that effect isn't marginal, it's very significant. So we've both got an interest in encouraging each other's small businesses to find ways of partnering together, because that way lies growth, profitability, job creation, and sustainable economic development. That's one of the reasons why we are strong supporters of the Nordic-Baltic network in UK trade and investment and in our British Foreign Office more generally, a network that links Latvia and the UK with the other Nordic and Baltic countries. Looked at that way, it's a market of 32 million people, it's a prosperous market, it's an open market, it's a like-minded market, and there are great opportunities to explore and exploit business partnerships that will be mutually fruitful in a very exciting part of the world. So my final comment is, do please go and look if you've not done so. If you're already invested there, know that the job of the British Embassy in Riga and the UK trade and investment people there is to be helpful, to help you find partnerships, to help you develop the business if you're already there. If they're not doing that job to your satisfaction, drop me an email. But I like to believe they do it very well, because I'm always interested in, as it were, customer feedback. So now's your chance. Drop me an email if you feel that there are ways in which we can do more, because we are there to help, and we won't rest until we see more and more British businesses looking at these opportunities. And it's a great pleasure and privilege to be here to talk to British businesses about a country as exciting as Latvia. Thank you very much.